Thank you, President, and thank you, Commissioner. My group welcomes those of your proposals which seek to implement the international agreement at the OECD on base erosion and profits shifting. Now, these recommendations presented last October need to be translated at a national level, and I accept the EU has a role to play in ensuring high-level consistency in applying those recommendations across the Member States. But I do have concerns that your package goes beyond the OECD BEPS guidelines. Can I ask you why, for example, you have proposed a switchover clause and an exit tax? Neither was proposed by the OECD. Both measures would seem to restrict the movement of capital around the EU. And wouldn't that impede rather than assist the operation of the single market? Secondly, your proposal on hybrids is very different from that of the OECD. And surprisingly, it's more lenient. Why? Why doesn't it apply to all EU third country arrangements, despite the OECD's clear desire to see international consistency? In my view, it is premature to include an interest limitation rule, given that the OECD has not yet finished work on the group aspects of the rule it will recommend. Again, with international consistency paramount, why do you wish to preempt the OECD's recommendation which the rest of the world may adopt? Won't this potentially put the EU at a competitive disadvantage relative to non-EU countries if the OECD outcome is different? Finally, do you accept that we need coordinated global action to tackle this issue? And if the answer is yes, why are you ignoring the OECD recommendations in some cases and going beyond it in others? Or is this actually furthering your own political agenda for more Europe, whatever the question might be?
Merci, Monsieur le Commissaire.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, I'm quite clear about that latter point. There is absolutely no political agenda. The Commission has no political agenda of its own. The Commissioners individually have no political agenda of their own. Of course, the OECD work is the underlying basis for the work that we are doing and putting forward. It's been endorsed by the G20, apart from anything else. But the implementation of BEPS on loan is inadequate for many reasons, and I'm sure you are quite aware of what they are. You know that we have an internal market here in the European Union, and this therefore has certain implications for the way we manage things. We have the jurisprudence, the case law of the court. Apart from anything else, it is possible that additional fraud problems could arise in the context of an internal market that would not be covered by BEPS, and this is why we need to go further. This is why we've put forward the switchover proposals which respond to a particular need in Europe, where dividends can be taxed effectively and on an equitable basis if they're not being taxed in the country of origin. This is part of our stability package, seeking to promote good economic governance, and it is intended to make sure that third countries play the game and that there's a level playing field. As I say, the case law of the European Union sets a base for us as well, and this means that if we continue to use BEPS but we don't go that bit further to reflect the fact that we have more integration in the European Union, then we will leave loopholes for the multinationals and the fraudsters, and they will exploit them ruthlessly. And this is why we're putting forward these switchover proposals. It's with a view to closing this loophole. BEPS is good, but in and of itself, it's not sufficient. And the internal given the internal market.
That you could comment upon why your proposal on hybrids is more lenient than the OECD. You've been very clear in saying why you want to go beyond in some examples. But you haven't answered that question.
No, yes, I think I did, because we have to take into account what the Court of Justice has judged on that point, and so we had to adjust our own proposal to the jurisprudence of the court. That's as simple as that. And again, I would say we need to implement all BEPS, but we need to go over BEPS if we want to be as efficient as BEPS at the international level. And it also is good for the international strategy.